Okay, this is Mr. Toups. This is the first worksheet you'll have. You do this on Tuesday or Wednesday, okay? So this is the solve by factoring paper. I'm going to do a couple of these and then you're going to do the rest. So let's start on number one. Remember, we want to get these in standard form. In standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Remember doing this? Let me get this up where you can see it. Okay, so we want to get all of the forms in ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Remember, the c is the y-intercept. It's been a while since we've done this. So I'm going to do a couple of these on this page. So on number one, we're going to move the 6 and the 7 to the left, aren't we? Okay, when we do that, remember the signs switch. So I'll have n squared minus 6n minus 7 equals 0. Now then, this, we just got to factor this. So I'm going to take the 7 and I'm going to write all of the factors of 7, and I kept these numbers real small, so the only factors of 7 are 1 and 7. And 7 and 1 do subtract and give us 6. So remember, we draw our parentheses, and remember, this sign drops. On this worksheet, right here, there's nothing in front of the n, so we're going to have n and n. And then the factors of 7 that subtract and give us 6 are 1 and 7. So which one's larger? The 7's larger. It goes first. Since I'm subtracting 7 and 1, these signs have to be opposite. Since this is a negative, this will be a plus. Okay, so these are my factors of this. If you won't put a factor. Remember, your zeros are opposites. Remember that? So to get the zeros, you would do n minus 7 equals 0 and n plus 1 equals 0, right? So if you move this over, it's going to be n equals 7, and if you move this over, it's going to be n equal negative 1. Remember, your factors and zeros have opposite signs. So my zeros are going to be n equal, the opposite of a negative 7 is a positive 7, and the opposite of a positive 1 is a negative 1. So this right here would be our x-intercepts, wouldn't it? This would be the x-intercepts of the graph, which is exactly what you're getting here. So we're factoring it, and from our factors, we're going to our zeros, which will be the x-intercepts. Okay, let's skip down and do number, which one's going to have a big one? Let's do number 12. Number 12 is going to have a pretty big term in front of it. So number 12, we want to put this in standard form. So I'm going to move the 48 and 22 over. So I'll have 5v squared plus 22v minus 48 equals 0. Okay. Now then, remember over here, this is the hard one. There's a number right here, right? So we have to take this number and multiply them. So 5 times 48 is 240. There's not, I think this is going to be your biggest one on this, okay? Now then, we need to multiply, get 240, and subtract to get 22. Multiply, get 240, and subtract to get 22. And this is going to take a while. So 24 and 10 work. But if I subtract 24 times 10, and I'm just going to do this to the side, 10 times 24. If I subtract, I get 14. I don't get 22. So these numbers have got to go apart, don't they? So we got to make this smaller. What about 8? 8 times 30 would work. So this is just brainstorming. What can I multiply to get 240, subtract to get 22? The 8 and the 30 work. Remember, on the calculator we did this. You don't have a calculator unless you download it. The link's there, and you could do the link the same way, but you could get these factors from this, okay? You have to remember how to do it. So we're going to rewrite this with the 30 and the 8. So we're going to write down 5v squared plus, and we're going to put the 30 first. And we subtracted and got 22, don't we? So minus 8v minus 48 equals 0. This is the hardest thing you're probably going to do in Algebra 1. Now we're going to factor by grouping. So I'm going to group these two, and I can take out a 5v, parentheses, and I'm going to have v plus 6. Remember, if I do this right, the v plus 6 is going to repeat over here. So I have two negatives over here. I have a plus plus and a minus minus. Remember, they're opposites, so I'm going to pull out a negative. And I could pull out an 8. So I'm going to pull out an 8, and I'll have v plus 6. So my v plus 6 repeats, doesn't it? So I'll have v plus 6, parentheses, 5v minus 8 equals 0. These are my factors, right? Okay, those are my factors. So now I'm going to go over here and get my zeros. My zeros are going to be the opposites, right? So my zeros, the opposite of positive 6 is negative 6. And if I were to set this equal to 0, 5v minus 8 equals 0, I would move over the 8 and divide by 5, wouldn't I? Remember, you'll get a fraction here. So the opposite of a minus is a plus, and this is your numerator, and this will always be the denominator. So it's going to be a positive 8 over 5. And I have the key to where your answer is a fraction, not 8 decimal. So my zeros would be negative 6 and 8 over 5, which are also the x-intercepts. Remember, we're just trying to find the x-intercepts. Now then, notice at the top, and I was real nice to you. Okay, I've already done 2 of them, right? So at the top up here, if you choose to do the worksheet, you could omit one problem from 1 to 6. So that means you only have to do 4 more of these, right? And then you could omit 2 down here, which means you only have to do 3 more of these. Okay? And then you would take a picture of this and post it. Or you could do an example of one of these problems, and it'll be a one with a number in front of the letter, okay? And I'll have that up there, okay? So always believe, and email me if you need any work. If you have your work saved up, you should be able to look back at your notes, okay? And you could also look at the test reviews for this and figure it out also. Always believe.